Welcome everyone to this webinar. My name is Jennifer Collier. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications for PracticeDock. Today's webinar is entitled Many Misdemeanors of Practice Management with our special guest, Jon Hoffenberg. To give you a little background on Jon, he is currently Executive Vice President of YellowTelescope Medical and is a graduate of Wharton Business School. He's co-founded YellowTelescope in 2008 with facial plastic surgeon Dr. Jeffrey Epstein. He now integrates his broad sales training, staffing, and executive management skills within the plastic surgery industry with a hands-on approach by offering staffing services and quality management training for industry professionals. Before we get started, I wanted to let each of you know that if you have any questions at any time during the webinar, you can submit your questions to the GoToWebinar question box displayed on your screen, and we will make sure if we don't answer your question today, we'll get back to you directly with an answer. And also make sure you stay to the end because we'll have special free offers for everyone at the end of the webinar. And now I will turn this webinar over to Jon. Welcome, Jon.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Can you hear me okay? Okay, wonderful. Sounds like audio is good. I hope everybody is doing well, and thank you guys so much for joining us today. Hopefully I can provide some great information to help you guys grow your respective practices. The topic of today's webinar is the many misdemeanors of hiring, firing, and things related to staffing. We're going to go through a lot of great information, hopefully, to help each of your practices sort of bring your staff into focus and to help you guys grow through having the best people on the bus and having them in the right seats and having them retained long term. To begin, I wanted to give a broad overview of what we do and what the concepts are behind what we do. YellowTelescope, we began about 4 years ago, and one of the main things that we do besides run two-day training seminars that help the top salespeople in the nation, the top practice administrators and the top physicians in the nation achieve great things within their practices through two-day training seminars. We also provide staffing services where we fill positions, but not just fill positions. We continue to work with those individuals over a 5-year period to help them succeed and grow. The short results are that every practice we've worked with has grown by between 60 and 125% in their very first year working with us. And what this talk is really about is taking and distilling some of those ideas that have helped these practices to grow and help them to get the right people on the team, the right people in the right seat, and have helped them to retain those people long term. We have found that a lot of practices have some really great people, but they're not in the right place within the practice itself. They don't have the right role. They may not have the right training. Other people are sort of the right type of role, but they're not really the right people to begin with. And then in other practices, they finally get the best people on board and they get them doing the right job, but then they quit or leave or go elsewhere, and they don't have the right people long term. And so our goal in this call and through what we do every single day is to help get the best people on the team in the exactly right spot and to be retained in the long term. We know within our practice we haven't had a single individual turnover I think since we've opened in the last 5 years, and although some turnover isn't a bad thing, sometimes it's a good thing, you know, the goal is to get the best people on board and then keep them around. So what I want to walk you guys through today are basically 3 what I call misdemeanors of management, 3 misdemeanors of hiring and firing that in aggregate create a felony, if you will, a hiring or a staffing or a long-term retention felony. And what I try to focus on in each of our calls and webinars are things that are counterintuitive. Most people on this call, whether you're a physician, whether you're an ancillary staff member of a doctor, whether you work with a hospital, regardless of your specific situation, chances are good that you're pretty smart, that you're rather intuitive. You've got a fairly good understanding of how people function. And so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on things like hire someone nice, or pick someone who hasn't had 47 jobs in the last 1 year, because a lot of those basic things are things that anybody kind of knows intuitively. What I want to focus on more so on each of these misdemeanors is what are the things that maybe go against our common conceptions of what's the appropriate way to add people to our team, the appropriate way to retain them, and the appropriate way to find the right seat for those individuals. So let's dive right in with misdemeanor 1, which is hiring for the wrong reasons. When you look through these bullet points on your screen, she has many years of experience. The person has the right look, or she's had surgery before. Female versus male. Their best friend of mine recommended them, or someone already works for their practice. They're not too expensive, so we're not taking much risk, or they're very expensive, they might be good. These are all reasons I've heard that someone was selected for a position and hired to join the group. And although they sound good at first, they in and of themselves are not reasons to be selecting an individual to work on your team. So let's talk about them. First, she has years of experience. I use the word she here, it could be he, of course, but we like experience. Experience is good in the mind of Yellow Telescope. I generally prefer to have someone with a little more experience versus a little bit less experience. The challenge that so many practices make, or the mistake that so many practices make, is that they just look for someone with experience. And the reason that doctors oftentimes select people with experience is, A, to be honest, they don't really wish to train somebody new, and because it's hard work, because it's painful. And yes, training is always hard work and training is painful, but I can tell you this, if someone's already pre-trained the wrong way, if they come in with a bunch of preconceived notions that don't fit with what you believe a practice should be doing, then the amount of time and energy that's spent in retraining someone who quote-unquote has experience is overcome by the idea that A, they're stubborn and won't change, and B, there's tons more time and energy being spent on that versus just teaching them the right way the first time. Yellow Telescope believes that there is no substitute for simply training people the right way. And although some experience can be good if a person is completely open to learning, experience in and of itself isn't necessarily a defining factor in selecting good people. The second mistake that's related to someone having years of experience is oftentimes they've been job hopping. They've been through 5, 6, 7 different jobs, all quote-unquote within the industry. Maybe that's plastic surgery or dermatology or cardiology or whatever it may be. That all sounds great, but again, the experience in and of itself, it may just mean that they keep getting jobs within an industry or role, but they're really not very good at it, and they're not very committed to it. And so that's why people keep letting them go or they keep quitting. Last, sometimes a person has been working with one individual practice for maybe 10 years, and you say, not only do they have experience, but they're not a quitter, they're consistent, and they haven't been job hopping. Well, again, they may be set in their ways, and although there are certain great habits that can be established through experience, oftentimes bad habits are established. Now, let me make a quick caveat here. Again, I am not suggesting or saying that experience is bad. In fact, it's one of the factors that we can look for that may be a positive, but it's not in and of itself the reason to select someone. With our Yellow Telescope salespeople that work in some of our offices, and we do currently run the most successful individual facial plastic surgery practice in America to our knowledge. We have practices in New York, Miami, Los Angeles, Aventura, Scottsdale, and so on. And so although we work in different markets with different specialties, with offices of different sizes ranging from literally the most successful perhaps in America to some of the smaller practices in America, it's important to know that we actually practice these things. Our top salespeople, in fact, every Yellow Telescope salesperson that works with us currently sells over $2 million worth of surgery and services a year, and that's getting close to $3 million per year per individual. In one of our offices, there are 3 people individually averaging nearly $3 million per year for one surgeon. So each of them, what's interesting, don't necessarily have experience in the industry. One is a former nutraceutical sales rep, which is, I guess, somewhat medical, but by no means working for a doctor's practice. One is a former real estate agent, a very successful one, educated at Wake Forest, with many years of experience in that industry. And still others have background in running their family's moving business. And so you'll see very varied backgrounds. One owned a massage studio for many years. So we don't, in and of itself, look for experience. Moving on to the next bullet point, the right look or the individual's had surgery. If you work in the cosmetic industry or your practice has ties to wanting people to look good or feel good, we don't hire people, and it goes without saying that if you say it out loud, it's illegal. Most doctors know that you're not allowed to hire people just based on looks or other certain characteristics, but the reality is in many industries it goes on. And we don't believe in it, not just because it's against the rules, but because the reality is we want talent. We don't want someone who looks the part. We don't want someone who just acts the part. We want someone who truly is the part. We don't want people who've had necessarily surgery that the surgeon offers. You don't have to have heart surgery to be good at running a cardiologist's office, and similarly, you don't need to have had a facelift to sell facelifts or to work with plastic surgery patients. And so again, having surgery isn't a bad thing. Having the right look and being professional and presentable isn't a bad thing. It's just that it's not a defining characteristics. It's hiring for the wrong reasons. The gender of the individual, another common mistake. In my particular industry, because we do work with a lot of facial plastic surgeons, cosmetic dermatologists, ENTs, and other similar specialties like cosmetic dentistry and so on, the doctor seems to wake up in the morning and say, we specifically want a female working for us in a specific role, whether it's a practice administrator or front office or a patient consultant sales role. Fair enough. We just disagree entirely. Each of the individuals that I just mentioned to you before, 3 out of 4 of those are male, and they sell facial plastic surgery, and they sell breast augmentation, and they sell hair restoration, and they really sell a number of different things across the board. And we don't really believe that male versus female matters at all. It's very counterintuitive, but some of our very best salespeople, in fact, our top 2 happen to be men, but they could have just as easily been very successful women. I love a recommendation. I think everybody does. We always love it when we get a resume through a personal connection. It's important not to select someone simply because they were highly recommended by a friend. I do believe that a recommendation from a friend or a colleague or coworker should get someone at least a live interview with you. I do believe that it gets them one step up the ladder. They get to at least meet with me. However, most people don't fully understand the intricacies and nuances of the practice that you're running. They don't fully comprehend what it takes to run your business. And so although they may narrow the field, oftentimes you will meet people who are recommended by a friend or colleague who actually aren't a great fit. The way I avoid offending the person who referred them to me while still getting as many personal referrals as possible for every job opening I have is I let the friend know that A, I thank them profusely, and then I let them know that I can't guarantee their friend a job, but I will give them an interview. And I simply say this, Barbara, first of all, thank you so much for recommending Bob. Your word alone means a lot to me, and I will be interviewing them based solely on the fact that you recommended them to me, and I certainly will give them a shove in the right direction. With that said, as you can imagine, we have a lot of highly qualified people applying for the position, and ultimately we have to select the best person for the job. So just wanted to let you know that we really appreciate your referrals, and although I can't tell you every single person you send me will get a position with us because these are highly competitive, I really do appreciate them and keep them coming. I've never had anybody say anything, but I totally understand, John. That seems very fair, and thank you for giving my friend a shot and an opportunity. In this way, if their friend is a superstar, if their recommendation is fantastic, I've got a great new worker. And if not, I haven't burned a bridge or ruined a relationship, and they'll keep sending more people to me. I also, last but not least, as far as hiring for the wrong reasons, we don't ever look for people that are too cheap or too expensive. What we look for is the best quality individual for the role, which usually means they've got a strong educational background. They have a history of working hard and being hungry for success. They have impeccable communication skills. They're unbelievably, shockingly good on the computer every single time, because in this day and age you must be good with your Next Tech or other proprietary program to make sure they're able to notate things and move quickly on the computer. They need to be someone who's professional. They need to be someone who plays well with others and has a good attitude, who's positive, who's not a job hopper. They need all of those things, but they don't necessarily need experience. They don't necessarily have to have a very specific look. Doesn't matter if they're a boy or a girl. Doesn't matter if they're recommended by a friend. And it doesn't matter how much money they want. The mistake that many people make is they find that someone out there in the market is grossly underpaid, and they realize they have an opportunity to pay them just a little bit more, but still underpay them, and they think they're getting away with something by underpaying for their market. My experience has been this: nothing costs your practice more than having a good employee walk out the door to go to a competitor or to move away or to just quit because they're not happy there. And when you underpay people, you're giving them an easy opportunity to go look for other jobs. You're giving them an easy opportunity to go in a different direction. I know one of the positions that we recently staffed, we selected and took away the #1 salesperson out of over 140 salespeople at one of the largest conglomerates of plastic surgeons in the world. We took #1 away. Yes, that individual, who comically enough happens to be making almost double what he was making before, and interestingly is a male, has grown the practice that he's now working with by the better part of $1 million per year in under 3 months. Under 4 months working with the practice that he's working with. So yes, he was being underpaid, and yes, they made some early profit over a year. What they also did is invest an inordinate amount of time, energy, and so on in training someone to be excellent, and who was making them over $6 million per year. And then they lost them because he was a little bit unhappy, but more importantly was grossly underpaid. So don't just look for inexpensive, pay them properly. I've also found doctors who said this person worked for XYZ doctor who has a great reputation, and she was making X amount of dollars a year, way more than the industry average, so she must have been good. Not necessarily. As you guys know, many doctors go to medical school and not business school, and they may not know what the market rate is, and they may have actually overpaid people either because they're kind or they just weren't aware of what appropriate was. And just because the individual is expensive, again, counterintuitively, doesn't mean they're necessarily any good at the job. Again, I want to find the best person for the job, regardless whether they're a little too much or a little bit too little. I do encourage you guys, by the way, to pay industry standard plus a little more. It decreases the chance of you losing someone over money. One less surgery booked per year, one unhappy patient per year is all you need to regret having someone who's not great or losing someone who was great. Moving on to misdemeanor 2, not knowing when to say goodbye. So one of the challenges is making sure you get the right person on the bus, but there's something even harder, which is how do you get the wrong people off of it? I've never really met anyone who absolutely loves firing people, who loves letting people go. I know I don't enjoy it. I know there was a movie, Up in the Air, with George Clooney that was all about this and how frustrating and challenging it is to let people go, but also because we're people, because we're humans, because we don't like seeing people, especially in an economy like this, not succeed, it hurts us literally to let people go. Unfortunately, too many physicians and too many practices hang on to people for all the wrong reasons. And again, they're counterintuitive. Now, don't get me wrong. I just said in the last slide that maybe the biggest way to lose money is to have someone that you think is fantastic walk out the door the very next day. But one of the things that can hurt you almost as badly is to keep people around who simply aren't getting the work done. When is it time to say goodbye, and what are the things we need to not be afraid to address? Well, oftentimes I hear physicians say, well, you know what, she's just been with me for years, so I need to be loyal. Well, I'm loyal. We don't have any turnover in my practice right now. I'm not looking to get rid of anybody. But, you know, life is different than business. And to some extent, we are in this to make a profit and have our business run successfully, like professionals. And I do think that loyalty and having someone stick with you for a long time, just like I've worked with my partner for 5 years and so on, that does entitle you to something. The mistake that doctors make is that they believe, or they come to be sort of convinced, that the fact that someone has been with them for years implies that they owe them unlimited loyalty forever. What I believe that years of service provide someone is a conversation. What I have committed to my team to doing is saying this: although we're always going to look at your recent results, although what you've done for me lately always matters in business, nobody cares that 4 years ago you were #1. What I will always do is I will give you the courtesy, because you've earned my loyalty, to have a conversation if we ever think that you're not doing something well. And so the way that our office and our offices overcome this challenge is that if someone is not performing at the best level, we don't let them go. What we will do, because we're loyal and because they've been with us for years, is we will provide them with a conversation where we explain what our concerns are. And we will provide them plenty of time and opportunity to correct it. But we'll also let them know that if it doesn't get corrected, we may end up in a situation where they may not be with us long term. This ensures that the physician and the practice is loyal to the people who are loyal to them, but it also ensures the employee is loyal to the physician who's paying them good money, providing possibly insurance and other benefits, and says, you know, you also need to perform well at all times if we're going to be if we're going to be mutual friends for the long term. The second issue that doctors often come up with is that they don't want to train somebody new. Or the practice manager says, you know, they really do know what they're doing and my life is so much easier right now. Oh, I don't really want to train. In short, guys, there's nothing else you can do. Get over it, and you will have to train somebody new. And if you don't want to train someone new, give us a call. We'll help you do it. But the reality is there's no substitute for having the best people in your office perform at the highest level. You know, even a poor receptionist who's not answering the phone properly can cost the right practice millions of dollars in a single year. So you need to remember that it's all about the people. They owe you loyalty by doing the best work they can every day, and then you in return will return that loyalty by always giving them honest feedback on what you need them to do to improve so that they can keep their job in the long run. The last thing I get from physicians and practices is, guys, you know, I know I need to get rid of Barbara or Susie, but, you know, I just don't want my people to see turnover. Well, there's good turnover and bad turnover. 95% of the time, I would say that a doctor finally gets the gumption and the confidence to say goodbye to an employee. 95% of the time, their entire team wishes they did it 3 years ago, knows that it needed to be done, and actually respects the physician or the practice administrator for finally pulling the trigger and saying this is not meant to be and we need to go in a different direction. So bad turnover is bad, and let me give you examples of bad turnover that make your practice look bad. When people quit for no reason at all, when someone is underpaid and they go to a competitor, when the boss isn't nice to them, gets upset, practices poor management and loses them. Good turnover is when people get married or they decide to start a family and they move away, and you send them a throwing away or a going away party and thank them for their years of service and let everybody else in the office know that you appreciate the time they had. Good turnover is someone who consistently has not been performing well, who you've explained to all the ways to solve that. You've taken the time to explain to him or her how they can get better and keep their job. And then at a certain point they don't, and you say, although you're a nice person, it's just not meant to be, and they get let go, and the entire team around them says, wow, this person actually is willing to let people go. I need to do my job better, and you know what? I respect them for getting rid of that individual because they were falling short of expectations for months, if not years. So don't fall for these sort of typical counterintuitive reasons to not or to keep someone on board unnecessarily. Do we want to get rid of anybody? We don't. Does YellowTelescope have high turnover? We have essentially zero. But do we understand that sometimes there is some sort of good turnover, and in that there are times when doctors and physicians don't know when to say goodbye? We do believe that's true, and don't be afraid to look critically at your practice and see what makes sense. Our last misdemeanor for today, guys, is putting the right person in the wrong seat. So we've now gotten the right people on the bus. We've now gotten the wrong people off of it. And then the third problem that can happen, the misdemeanor that could lead to the felony, is having the right people on the bus, but they're not really in the right jobs. They're not going to be retained. So often we hear physicians and doctors say, well, you know, this individual is absolutely fantastic at everything. Well, you know, no one's good at everything. I know personally I can do calculus, but I can't do accounting, which is very counterintuitive, and I don't really fully understand it, but I'm just not that great as an accountant, and putting me in your accounting department is not going to be great for you. So I surround myself with people who are great at accounting. Now, when it comes to teaching doctors to sell better, that's a strength of mine, or hiring great people. That's something I feel very confident in. I've interviewed, hired, and trained over 10,000 people, so I feel confident. That's something that I'm very, very strong in, at least in my own mind, and so I try to focus my time on that area, and I try to surround myself with people who complement my weaknesses, which I have many, many, many weaknesses, according to my wife. So in any case, the question then is, how do we overcome this? Well, if you're a brand new practice and you're very tight on budget It is absolutely reasonable to say we're short-staffed for the short run, we all pitch in. There's certainly no problem with having a Jill or a jack of all trades to kind of pitch in with you as you're growing your business. But as soon as your budget permits, the first place you should be investing in is people. People before web development, people before YellowTelescope, people before everything else. Because without the right people in the right seat, it's very hard to grow, even if you've got plenty of leads coming in. So in the short run, sure. But the next thing that you do is you hire for your weaknesses. So if you're a newer practice and you have one employee, yes, that one employee may have to work on some of their strengths, but also some of their weaknesses to help you get the practice run well. As soon as you have the budget, you want to do the yin to your yang, the black to your white, whatever, the opposite of whatever you guys lack. So if you're strong in sales, but not particularly great in organization, you'll want to select someone who is great at organization. Too often, doctors love to hire versions of themselves because we all get along with people who are just like us. We say, wow, they're just like me. Isn't it wonderful to work with them because we see eye to eye, we like the same sports teams, we do the same things for fun, we buy the same brand of jeans. But the reality is those people just add more strength where you've already got a strength. You need to hire for your weaknesses. If you're super customer service oriented, everybody loves you, you're 5-star all the way, select somebody who can help you get things done on time. If you're amazing at organization, but you're not a real big service person, you just want to kind of knock things off the list, hire someone to manage your service end of the business. If you feel like you went to medical school, not business school, and you need someone to help you sell better and get higher average order, better close ratios, higher lead conversion, then make sure that you're selecting someone who's very strong in sales and sales management. So hire for your weaknesses. Then hire for your new hires' weaknesses, and so on. Just divide and conquer and keep knocking things out as you grow your business. That's how you get the right people in the right seat. Just because somebody is good at a few things doesn't mean they're good at all of them, and let them know up front, Barbara, I know that your strength is sales management. This is going to be a majority of what you do with me long run. For now, I know that you have to help me with charts. I know that you have to help me with filing, which is not your strong suit. But we will find a new person as soon as we have the budget to do so, and you will be continually more streamlined into the role of your strength. As far as a few conclusions, it's very important that you become a student of business. Whether you're a doctor, an ancillary staff member, a nurse, regardless of your background, it's so important to become a student of business, not of the business, but of business in general. There are countless amazing books out there, webinars like you're on right now, and thank you, Jennifer, very much for inviting us to speak on this one. But it's things like this that help educate you and make you better and better and better so you can start treating your business like a business. It goes without saying that if I tried to do a rhinoplasty today, I probably wouldn't be very good at it. Why? Well, I've never been to medical school, I'm not a doctor, and I have no training. So similarly, it's very, very reasonable to expect that most physicians and most ancillary staff members may not be the best at running a practice because it's not what they specifically went to school for. What we do know is this: without the very best people on your team, you can't place them in the right role. And if you don't have the right people in the right role, they're not going to want to stick around. You're not going to be able to retain them over time. The key is to start off right, and you'll end up right a whole lot more often. If you start off wrong with the wrong people, then it doesn't much matter what seats are open and whether they stick around or not because you're out of luck. If you get the right people but they're not in the right role, there's no way they're sticking around anyway. And if you try to retain people long run but they're not the right people or they're not in the right role, you're not going to have great results. One of the things that I really like to do is read. In every speech I've ever given, I wouldn't say my entire life, but the last decade or so, I always end every single talk, speech, webinar, or otherwise with a list of books that I think change things and that kind of lead into some of the ideas and thoughts I've given on this call. Authentic Leadership by Kevin Cashin is a great one. Good to Great, Hug Your Customers, Leadership and Self-Deception, 1 Minute Manager. You can also email me for a whole bunch more. I've got probably 100 ideas for you guys depending on what area of the business you try to grow in. But when you're looking for great people, the last thing I want to mention is that they look for leaders. I'm not very easily led because I want greatness above me. I want the people that I report to. I want my mentors to be people I genuinely wake up in the morning and want to emulate and be more like because I want to grow as a person and so on. I try to serve that purpose to the people that report to me. I try to lead my life every day in a way in which I know the people that report to me would like to be. Everybody has different interests and goals, but I know that everybody likes a work-life balance. Although I work extremely hard, I go on vacation. I'm good to my wife. I'm good to my people. I like going out to lunch and dinner and playing golf and having a beer and having fun with the people around me. I like investing those. I like to read a lot. I like to play sports and exercise and lead a healthy lifestyle. And so I try to do things that I would want in my leader so that the people who I must lead look up to me and say, that's someone I'd like to emulate. And one of the most important things to that, in my opinion, maybe the most important thing, is to wake up every day and read something. So although it doesn't relate specifically to hiring and firing, if you really want to retain people long run, you've got to be green and growing, not brown and dying. And the only way to be green and growing is by doing a little bit every day. And you got to water your plant, and that comes from reading. Hiring is different from recruiting. I'm a recruiter, not a hirer. Recruiting is an art form and a science, and we like to bring both of those to the table. I wanted to wrap up with you guys with a few quick special offers and some contact information. I'll turn it back over to Jennifer here in just a couple of minutes. We would love for you guys to sign up for your complimentary monthly email newsletter, our monthly email newsletter for free tips. You can sign up by going to YellowTelescope.com. We have over 2,000 physician and ancillary staff subscribers. Sign up right now while you're online listening to the end of this call. There's no charge for it. It's a free monthly newsletter. There's minimal, if any, sales pitches related to it. It's just great information. My next issue actually lands next week, and it's all about the 7 steps to making a sale, and it's specifically the art of rapport building. So if you want to learn a little bit about that, join our newsletter. There's no obligation. It's free. We do run, if I may say so humbly, the finest training seminars in America. They're 2 days. They're extremely high level. They are run at the Mandarin Oriental, Miami, each year. Our next one is about a year away on October 4th and 5th, so you can plan ahead and ensure you don't have surgery that day. It's a Friday, Saturday, so you only miss one day of work. It's perfect for physicians, practice managers, and high-level sales staff. It is not ideal for people who are not at that level or above. Sign up by November 30th, and if you mention this webinar, you'll receive $1,000 off per attendee for signing up early. Don't worry, you're not committing to anything. There's no payments until January. We then break it into 8 no-interest monthly payments between January and October, and you can cancel and get all of your money back until 30 days prior with absolutely no penalty. So you literally have nothing to lose. If it is not the best meeting you have ever attended in your life, period, we refund 100% of your money. We have never had to give a refund, and we've been ranked 9.88 out of 10 based on anonymous reviews of attendees in the past several years that we've been running these meetings. By the way, if you get a friend to sign up, you'll also get $1,000 cash for each individual on top of your $1,000 off for each person that you send in that joins the event and attends. Contact me for more detailed information. Last, we do believe confidently that we are very, very good at what we do well, and we're not very good at what we don't do well, so we try to focus just on our strengths and not our weaknesses. We do strongly believe that we can help you fill any positions you have that are of a non-medical nature, meaning we don't fill your nurses and per diem techs, we fill your practice managers and sales staff roles and physician roles. If you're looking for someone or you want additional training for your existing team and you're really happy with them and don't need staffing help but need training help, please contact me at jon@fhrps.com to schedule a 15-minute call with me at no cost. Some of them lead to some business together, some of them don't, and that's totally fine if it doesn't. I'm always happy to build relationships and get to know more people. Very last, we run an annual conference here in Miami, but we've also just been signed on by Randy Waldman and the Multi-Specialty Foundation in Las Vegas, who runs the largest international event for plastic surgeons, ENTs, dermatologists, cosmetic dermatologists, and facial plastic surgeons. We're going to be presenting 6 different speeches coming up in the Vegas event in June, and we're also adding a full-day add-on between 1 and 5 p.m. Sunday, June 30th, to that meeting, endorsed by the Multi-Specialty Foundation. So check out YellowTelescope.com for more information on that. We're very proud to be a part of it. With that, thank you guys very much. I look forward to speaking with many of you in the future. Appreciate everybody's time and being on the webinar. I will turn it back over to Jennifer to wrap everything up.
Thank you, John. That was very informative. In fact, many of our PracticeDock doctors use our call tracking tool, which records all calls, and doctors use it to review how their staff is with phone etiquette. It's really amazing some of the things we hear the staff say to potential new patients. In fact, certain staff members can really be the first impression for a practice, so it's very important to have the right person in the right spot. Well, I just want to let everyone know that we will have this webinar on demand within the next week or so. In case you joined us a little late or you'd like someone else in your organization to watch it, I'll email each of you to let you know when you can watch it online. As most of you know, as you see right there, PracticeDock provides multiple online marketing services that can help you generate more product leads. And John, if you wouldn't mind moving it to the next slide. We have a special offer today. For all the attendees of this webinar, the first 25 that sign up, we're actually review your website with our PracticeDock website SEO review report for free. It's usually like a $40 in charge, but this report, it's like a 15-page report. It'll tell you complete detail of why your site is performing or not performing well on Google and how to fix it for free. Once we have the report ready, we'll actually have an SEO consultant call your team, and we'll contact each of you to go over this report so you fully understand how to make easy changes to your own website so you can rank higher in the search engines. I would like to thank you all again for joining us today, and thank you, John, again for your great advice. For any of you that have any questions, keep them coming. We'll make sure to respond to each of you over the next few days with answers. And this concludes our webinar. I hope each of you have a wonderful day.